going to be giving you a quick tutorial on boot cleaning. So, some are fine with the whole buy a new pair per year, which is great for your rookie year because then you can use the old pair for practice pair. It's pretty nice. But what does get embarrassing is when you get halfway through football season and because you haven't been cleaning your boots properly, you're doing high kick and your boots look completely black. So this is an example of what a boot looks like without really cleaning it. So this was my first boot pair that I did not clean officially. I clean it now at the end of every football season since these are practice boots now. But most of these stains, because I did not clean them right, the stains, they became permanent. So when I tried to clean them a few weeks later, the stains that came off earlier, they don't work anymore. So I'm going to give you a quick tutorial on how to clean your boots. So we're going to be cleaning my boots. I've had these for both my first vet year and now my senior year. They're a little scratched up and dirty, which is expected, and especially since I haven't washed them since we did some pictures outside. So we're going to wash them, see what happens. So essentially what you're going to need is your boot. You're also going to need the all-powerful Magic Eraser. You can buy these anywhere, and these do wear out fast, so it's best to get like 4 or 5 for football season. Also, some scuff cover. You can even get white boot polish, but I've found that scuff cover actually works a lot more, and you can find this at your basic H-E-B. It's pretty simple. I think they have some at Walmart, but not as well. A washcloth, because as you'll see in a minute, well, maybe not because my boots aren't as dirty, but as you're scrubbing off the boots, dirt runs all over the place and it just makes it harder to deal with. And these crumble apart too, and so helps wipe off all the extra junk. Okay, you just had a fun night at your first football game, and you've come home, dumped all your stuff in a giant pile on your bed after you had a fun time hanging out with all your friends, and you wake up the next morning and you're like, okay, time to go on with life. Wrong. Your first priority is to clean your boots. It doesn't have to be done first thing in the morning. I find it helps keep them cleaner, but at least as long as you get them cleaned by the end of the day after a football game, it's going to keep them pretty white. So you turn on your water. What you're going to do is you're going to take your hand and you're going to put it in your boot. It's going to allow for some structure. That way you can easily scrub everything off the boot. Then, next what you're going to do is you're going to take your handy dandy Magic Eraser, get it all wet in there. You're going to want to keep the water running, depending on how dirty your boots are, just so you can easily rinse out your Magic Eraser. So I find it best to start on the bottom. Yes, you want to clean your bottoms because when we kick, they see the bottoms of our shoes and we want to give them the best presentation. So I'm going to take my little Magic Eraser. I'm just going to go all across my little boot here. And every now and then I'll go and I'll rinse it out, and you can see like this isn't that bad, but when you do football games, you wipe that thing and this whole thing is like pitch black. So as you might be able to see, probably not, I'm getting a lot of water buildup right in this area, which is just leaving a big pile of dirt there. So I just take my handy dandy washcloth and I wipe it off. And you're going to do this multiple times as you go over your boot. Don't worry too much about rinsing out the washcloth as you go. You can do that near the end, but it depends on how dirty did you get your boot. So, about finish the bottom, get a little bit more in those corners. Most of the dirt likes to rest inside these little creases and also in between your little stars that are on your boot. You want to make sure that you get the edges of the boot too. And then take it all across your top. Make sure you clean off that toe. The toe is your pride and joy right there. And also as you're going out, it's always, you don't have to do it every time, but every once in a while, you clean these little flappies here, because we walk with them and as we go about, they get closer and closer to the ground and they get all sorts of dirt in there. So it's good to make sure that you get all of that. Okay, so now what I've done is I've finished cleaning. Next, you're going to keep your hand inside your boot. Make sure that your boot is completely dry. It should be the driest it can possibly be. And then take your beautiful boot polish and or scuff cover. And you're going to take it. I find it best to start on the bottom of the boot because you want this to dry first. And you're just going to sponge until it starts coming out. Then I find it easy to do some polka dots. And you just wipe it across your shoe. Try and make sure it doesn't do too much dripping. If there's like bubblies on it, can't. But yeah, if you get, there you go. If you get some sud marks on there, it's not too big a deal. That's what you want, because then the color settles on it a lot more. And yes, boot polish the bottom of your boots. It makes them look pretty darn nice. And I also found that, you see this is a little bit dirty? Yeah. The bottom of the boot, this boot scuff cover sort of helps to clean it up. So yeah, get all in there. And then if it does start getting too dirty, easily just turn on the water, rinse it a little bit, then put it back on your boot, keep going. So you do that all over the bottom of your boot, and then once you feel you have been properly satisfied with said bottom of your boot, turn it around and you start going to town all over. Make sure you really get all the way up there. I know we don't really think about the top of our boots, but those get pretty darn yellow at some point, so it's best to keep them white too, especially on the back heel, because that's where most people are watching as we walk away, so you make sure that's nice and good. Time's sake. So keep doing that. And then with these little flaps, at some point, yeah, you want to make sure that you get those too. But piece of warning, both the boot polish and the scuff cover, if you get those on the metal part, you can't get that off. That is going to stay there. So you want to make a little bit of a perimeter around there. Make sure there isn't a lot of suds near there or up above it, so you don't want it doing anything. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep putting the scuff cover all over it while I'm waiting for this bottom part to dry. And then once the bottom part is dry, I will basically take my boot, I will set it down in a safe place, and I will take my hand out. And that is when I will continue on. Okay, so now I've efficiently washed both my boots and covered them in our wonderful scuff cover. And here comes the most part where girls are like, really, that just seems a lot of work and not worth it? A second coat of scuff cover. And no, it is completely worth it, because some of these, the color, it doesn't set everywhere so it gets very splotchy. Like, see if I can show you from the times where I only did a first coat. Yeah, you can't really tell, but I definitely can. And it's basically, it looks like I took a paintbrush and got a bunch of paint splotches all over my boots. And it's not as clean a look. So that's why you always want to put your little boot back on your hand, get your scuff cover again, and go at it. And this time, you can actually tell pretty well that like the white is adding on, which when it comes to kick, ooh, those boots are gonna look sharp. And so I basically go all over the boot again and go all over the bottom. And again, I'm gonna wait to set it down and take it off my hands until the bottom is completely dry. Now that does not mean that this middle part has to be dry, because this is your arch, and so there's more of a lift. So all you have to make sure is it can still be wet, there just can't be giant suds on it. It's the part that's actually going to be touching the ground cannot be wet when you put it back on. Or not when you put it back on, but when you set it down to dry. So I'm going to continue covering my second coat. We'll have a little bit of a show off at the end. Okay, so now we have two wonderfully beautiful looking boots right here. Perfectly white. Well, not perfect, they're old. But they are going to look super good on the football field. After you're done, double check and make sure that you rinse out your sponge that's on your polish, that you rinse it out in water. So what will happen if you don't is all the polish and paint that got left up at the top in the sponge will dry and harden, and then you're not going to be able to get anything more out of this. Also, don't put the lid on, that makes it stiff too. So don't put the lid back on till it's completely dry. Make sure all the paint is completely gone. So, just to go over our tips again. First, wash your boots the day after football game, no later. Second, washing boots. Always make sure that while you're scrubbing them with your handy dandy magic eraser, that you are wiping up the dirty water that comes along as you leave it behind. 3, after you're done washing, make sure the boot is completely dry before applying the scuff cover. Number 4, make sure to apply the scuff cover on the bottom first, and do not set the boots down to dry until both the hard soles of your boots have been completely dried. 5, to apply the scuff cover, always try and use polka dots and then spread out the polka dots. Then we have 6, after both boots have been completely cleaned, completely dried, completely polished, and then dried again, then make sure you apply a second coat. That way the coat remains even and your boots maintain a lot of whiteness. So I think those are all the tips I have on cleaning your boots, and as long as we keep this up, we should have the whitest boots out there on the field.